back to a support website, and the last time it was updated was 2012, and it is now 2024. Yeah, I think that's you start being like, well, is this content still accurate? Like, should I trust it? And organization, is it well organized? Avoids information overload. You don't just want to have they call it a wall of text. You don't just want to have one big block, huge page of text that you printed out and be like that big. Avoid graphics that download slowly or don't contribute to the content. It should be organized by a client's needs or the general user's needs. Format as it provides information in small units. So instead of having all your information on one big giant page, you might have a menu that is like by product line or by service offered. So if you were to go to, honestly, I bet you I could just go real quick. Yeah, this is fine. Logitech support. There's a perfect example. Instead of having all the information on one page, you'd be like, oh, well, what product do I have? Do I have mice, pointers, keyboards, speakers, sound, headsets, webcams? What do I have? And then you drill in, and then it might say, yeah, so there you go. And then if I were to click more, and then here's, so see how I drilled in and I found more information. Oh, that's actually pretty funny. I didn't do that on purpose. I think I literally just left it there. So it's important to kind of provide the information, a path to get to the information you need without overloading the user and trying to simplify a way to find what you need. And effective navigation aids, you just saw that. Correct spelling, correct grammar. You want to avoid obvious spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. I always laugh about how ASUS used to be really bad for this, where it very much looked like their support materials were just Google Translate. And you could tell, because the language didn't flow correctly, it didn't quite make sense. And there's still providers that will do that, especially if you buy anything from AliExpress. It's just funny to read that sometimes. Strategies. So what are some strategies for difficult clients and incidents? Difficult client is one who requires special handling strategies because the user is angry, not communicative, rude, or abusive. You want to focus on the specific problem. Keep reframing the call back to the specific problem, especially if they get kind of derailed in anger, frustration, getting the needed information to the client or from the client, and providing excellent customer service in a respectful manner. Getting on to the next incident. I'll keep saying throughout here, don't take abuse. There's a difference between difficult and abusive. We'll get to that. Some characteristics of difficult clients. This is one of those things, I'm not going to read through all of it. You want to go back and review it, and it's probably a quiz question. That's why I pasted it in here. There it is. It'll be on PowerPoint, which will be made available if it wasn't already. But there's users who complain. This is kind of like the first level. Give ample opportunity for a user to voice complaints within reason. You don't want to waste time and be a punching bag. You want them to be able to. Sorry, this is bad communication skills. I had to tie my shoe up. You want to give them the opportunity to say what their issues are and give their complaints, and use empathy to a point. You're not expected, again, to be a punching bag or to internalize this like hatred for your product. Don't take the complaint personally. You just work there. Unless they're making it personal, again, like talking about your mom, don't take it personally. Remember that complaints can be a valuable source of feedback, whether constructive, about the products and services. Oh yeah, your platform sucks. That's not helpful. Oh man, it would be nice if when I click this button, it did this and changed this color. Oh yeah, well that's actually constructive. Power user is one who's technically knowledgeable, or thinks he or she, or they, who believes that they warrant special treatment. You'll get that from time to time when you'll be like somebody who'll be like, oh yeah, I own the first, sorry. Hold on for a second. Oh yeah, I used to own a Mac. And then it turns out the Mac they owned was like in the 90s. And then they're like, oh, I've been using computers since the 80s. That's okay, cool. Like you start picking up on these things where they're like, they know, like they kind of know technology, but they know, but then they might know enough to be dangerous. You can use inclusive language that makes the user feel like a member of the team, but you want to use an authoritative.
Do not sleep on this.
Oh, I'm the boss and you suck. You do as I say. That's not what that means. It means you are the one who is tasked with maintaining that technology in this organization. So them coming telling you what to do, no. You are telling them how this like works, and you support them within that relationship. And you don't want to try and diminish the power user's sense of self-importance, because that just leads to an argument. But you know what? Like, no, that's not how that works. This is how it works. Like, I mean, I think I know better than you. I mean, what are you like? You don't work in IT, do you? I work in IT. I know what I'm talking about. Like, you're not trying to belittle them or to teach them a lesson. It's just, it's kind of like having patience. And this sounds horrible and condescending, but have you ever had a kid try to tell you a story? Right? Like you have like an 8-year-old try to tell you a story. You're like, oh yeah, buddy, that's great. Like you don't want to do that to this user and be condescending, but it's about listening when really you don't care about what their imaginary friend told them, like the kid. In the same way, you don't want to be dragged into this conversation, but you still want to be kind of like respectful and pleasant, and you just want to be like, that's cool. Yeah, I can't imagine what it would have been like using punch cards in the 70s. Like, play along a little bit to a point, and then just kind of try and get off the call. Then you have incidents that get off track. You want to refocus the incident. That means like, that's horrible about your dog, and and this system, yes, it has its problems, but let's get back to the issue at hand. Trying to get back on track, meaning get back to the issue and back to fixing it and progressing on it. You want to, if necessary, apologize for the lack of prompt resolution, only if necessary. Summarize the basic problem information back to them. Again, there's that word, summarize. Use your own words and be like, hey, I think this is where we left off, and I'm explaining the problem A, B, C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3. And do you agree that that's the issue? And offer to continue to work towards a resolution. Well, now I have this ticket. I've assigned it to myself, and I'm going to take this on and make sure that it gets done. So we talked about last week tracking your incidents, where you make sure that things get where they need to go. Something that's got off track is essentially something that you haven't been tracking. So if you find something that's like, holy crap, that guy's been waiting for like a month, and it's our fault, jump on it and follow these steps. Almost there. We're actually just over 3/4 of the way there. Users who are upset or angry. So, again, within reason, and not taking abuse, let the upset users vent their anger or frustration. Again, that doesn't mean you're taking abuse. There shouldn't be yelling in the phone. There's a distinction. Where somebody's like, oh man, this is the 3rd time I've had an issue with this, and I'm really struggling because I keep paying you every month, but the system keeps failing, and it's really, really irritating. Like that could be a user saying that to you. That's not that bad. Like, yeah, that's kind of a bit snarky, a little bit, but it's not like evil, horrible, mean. So from the other perspective, from the support now, you want to reassure users that the problem is an important one. Your call is important to us. Like I literally just earlier in the slide said that that's a bullshit statement. So you don't necessarily want to say that exact thing, but you want to like show that behavior. You want to model that behavior and say things that show them that it's important. Because remember that an angry user may continue to vent before they're willing to work on a problem. I talked about letting them get it out, because once they get it out, they'll be like, oh. Okay, where was I again? Like that's then they want to, once they feel kind of relieved and listened to, that's when they're ready to focus on the incident. Now you want to avoid defensiveness. Again, you can defend yourself against abuse. It's not personal and it's not escalating and super tense, but you don't want to then go, no, that's not how that works. That's not our problem, and then start like bickering with them. You want to avoid that. Don't sound patronizing. I've touched on that already. You don't want to be like, oh, who's a good boy? Oh, that's a very good job. I am so proud of you for knowing what like a net wireless router is. Avoid that. Work with an angry user to build trust the best you can. And I added this in emphasis, do not take abuse. If your company expects you to take abuse, try to find a new company. Easier said than done, especially in this economy. But our role is not one that is required to take abuse. Like a stuntman in the movies, they're required to take abuse. That's their job. That is not our job. Users who are abusive. So that's when you're kind of starting out, a little frustrated, a little upset, having a problem. Then it's like, oh man, I'm like angry and frustrated. I'm really venting it, but I'm not like horrible and mean. And then we get over to users who are abusive. It's one who's rude, uses inappropriate language, makes personal attacks on an agent or the agent's family or the agent's family history, racist. That one's a common one. You certainly don't deserve to take that. The goal is is if you can, to transform an incident with an abusive user into one where the user is just angry, no longer abusive or like harassing or assaulting. Explicitly say that the continued abuse will result in your inability to field this call. That is the hang-up policy. That's what they're saying. F around and find out. Like that's what that means. Then work to satisfy the needs of the user. The result should be hopefully a successful incident. Follow the support organization's policies and procedures for this type of incident. If you don't have those policies and procedures, or the policy or procedure is the customer's always right, and they're being shitty to you, well then don't follow that policy. The policy is to essentially quit and find a new job. I had a user who was talking to a help desk member trying to get support, and was like, you guys are like the worst IT I've ever had. Like, it's unbelievable. And then that's the part where I was like, I told you about my help desk where it was like a desk and then they couldn't get back. So I was just like poked my head in and was like, excuse me? And then I was like, and then as soon as I said that way, he was like, oh shit, I thought that. Right? Thankfully. I say thankfully because some users do not have that ability to pick up on that, but he did. And he was like, well, I'm sorry. It's just like I'm very frustrated, and like it's been weeks and this hasn't been fixed. And I'm like, I understand that, but we just have to watch the language and the tone because that's not acceptable behavior towards them, towards us, and towards anyone here. So, do we want to try and resolve this? He's like, yes. And then we took it aside and we solved the solution. And he ended up actually being quite reasonable later on, and he apologized and sent us some like gifts and stuff, like chocolates or something. I think about it like a Tim Hortons Take 10. It was great. So you want to try to do that, but if he didn't stop, didn't have that self-awareness, that's when you step away and you're like, nah, forget this, I'm calling the cops. Users who are reluctant to respond. There's several causes of this or ways that this manifests. You want to try to use very simple language. Avoid technical jargon and try different kinds of questions. Again, I hate to draw this analogy because it sounds condescending, but if you ever talk to children and you're like, hey, how's your day? And they're like, no, it's all right. What did you learn at school today? Nothing. But then they could talk for like an hour about Roblox. Like it's the same thing with IT, is that you have to find the right questions and try and get the right information in. Sometimes they're reluctant because they might be uncomfortable talking to people, especially on the phone, in person. They might be uncomfortable with you. It could be a woman who's uncomfortable with a man, or a man who's uncomfortable being around women. Like any of these sort of situations can contribute to someone who just doesn't want to answer. There's also the person who feels they're too important and their time is too important to communicate with you. Those are the worst, because they're just like, I don't have time for this. Can't you just fix it? Okay, like, man, we need you to, like, sorry, what's your user ID? Oh, like, those people are kind of the worst, but you have to get it out of them. Sometimes suggesting exchange of information in a different mode can help, like email, chat session, telephone, remote access, face-to-face, whatever one works best for them. This person wasn't reluctant to respond, but we had a person who was hard of hearing, or profoundly deaf, actually. She was profoundly deaf. And one of the IT people, one of the help desk people called her back on the phone. And it was like, as soon as I figured out what was going on, I was like, no, we'll go handle it. But to call someone who's deaf on the phone, obviously she was reluctant to respond. And email was the only means of communication we had at that time. So finding other ways to communicate is important. I know I, for one, have mentioned it in this class, and I don't know who else, show of hands, hates calling businesses on the phone, or send an email or a chat. Who else? Anyone else here? Yeah, right? I hate it. And that's why my wife too, she's always like, can you call? And then as soon as I hear the words, can you call? I'm like, don't tell her that. The tip is building trust with a reluctant user. It takes time. They're actually kind of like a stray dog. Like, you know, like a dog that ran away from home, and you're like, come here, boy, come here. And the dog's just like off in the corner, like, I don't know this guy. I don't know what he's trying to do. I don't know what he wants from me. You have to build that trust and just be like, you're so like him. But you don't want to say that in IT, obviously. Like, you say that to a dog. But it's the same kind of like idea. And I hate drawing those comparisons, because then it's like saying, hey, your users are dogs. Like, that's not what I'm saying. And you don't want to be condescending, but it's the same sort of idea where you have to build the trust with them, and then once they trust you, they'll let you scratch your tongue. They'll appreciate you in an IT capacity. Users who will stop responding. Social butterflies. Or like, you work at a grocery store, or a shopping cart, or on a Tuesday, that kind of stuff. You want to try and use behaviors that indicate the contact is over. Without being too rude, obviously. You don't want to be like, hold up. See you later. You want to summarize the incident, describe the resolution. Is there anything else I can help you with? Be careful with that question. Thank you to the contact and support group. Most people pick up on that meeting near the end, right? Where you're going to tell where you're hopefully near the end of the movie. It's like Avatar and it goes on. And then express your belief that the problem is resolved. Now they're hearing the words. Short answers that don't probably lead into additional conversation and communication. That doesn't mean being short with them, be like, yep, nope, yeah. It just means that if they say things, they'll imply like, oh man, I'd love to hear more about this. I'd love to hear more about what you're talking about. It's not in person. I mean, I can be like, if you're continually talking and I'm getting on my if I were to, we were just talking, and it's just, I'm kind of like slowly backing away, like not like running away. That's one. And if you interrupt, sometimes you just flat out have to say, I'm going to have to let you go. So thank you very much for calling. And sometimes you just have to fight forward. Strategies for resolving conflicts. So my thought was be like, excuse me? Like, that's not a strategy, but like, that was my in the heat of the moment, like, what did you just say? But conflict occurs when end users and support staff disagree about problem-solving steps, product and service evaluations, needs assessments, recommendations, and other support work-related issues. Some conflict in work situation is inevitable due to differences in levels of expertise, roles, viewpoints, values, and ego. That does not mean, conflict doesn't mean like punching somebody or like a shouting match It just kind of means a disagreement. How it escalates into what point differs, but no matter what, there's always going to be some sort of disagreement. I have them all the time. Where my experience level, my experience, my knowledge, and my particular skill set gives me certain opinions on things, or certain ways of doing things based on my experience. Sometimes somebody else's entire other experience is entirely different than mine. They have something different. Their education and their skill set and their experience is different. And you'll find it but you have to address it. Effective conflict resolution. We want to avoid allowing hammer on things. You don't want to stop just like cursing that person. You don't want to focus on who's to blame for the problem of conflict. Sometimes it's necessary, but not necessarily the best way to do it. Personal threats to use for team members to promote a viewpoint or get even. You're like, well, if you don't do that, then I'm not going to approve your budget. Like, as in the States with the government that does that kind of thing. Spreading rumors, gossip, complaints about other team members. Oh, I heard that the CEO, the receptionist, the receptionist, because she did strike defensiveness and agitating a viewpoint. So sometimes you are right. Sometimes you have the most experience and you have the authority to do things. That doesn't mean that you shut everyone down and don't listen and you just get super stuck in your ways. You want to avoid that. Intransigence when presented with the opportunity to compromise. So it's a meaning, I love when it's like, don't use big flashy words, and then the PowerPoint's like, here's a big flashy word. That means don't be like, so if somebody recommends an alternative, you don't be like, shit, I don't think that's the best idea. Like, that's just ridiculous. Don't just be like so surprised that somebody else might know something that you don't. Strategies for resolving conflicts. Order of avoiding conflicts as well is to seek early recognition and commitment from stakeholders. By the way, there's only like 3 or 4 more slides. Open lines of communications among participants. Seeking early recognition, and commitment from stakeholders is important. Stakeholders, anyone who's involved, kind of has the saying skin in the game, or someone who is directly impacted by it. If everybody agrees early on how something will be done, or how something will be managed or fixed, if everybody agrees that it's a discussion, that hopefully is avoiding conflict. Identify issues, assumptions, and facts. What are the issues? What are the assumptions? What do you know? If I am a VoIP specialist and you have a VoIP related question, I'm probably the best person to answer it. I'm not. I'm in no way. I just use that.
Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know.
I'm not going to go giving VoIP advice to somebody who's probably their expertise. So have that self-awareness to be like, I'm going to defer to the person who probably knows. Unless you see something that's like super like really bad that they're doing, like a security vulnerability, that kind of thing, you defer to them. But that's you can't. Encourage active listening, paraphrasing, empathy. You actually listen to somebody, and when you're paraphrasing, that means you listened, understood what they said, and kind of have a emotional understanding of what they're saying.
easier for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you. So when I did, hey, do me a favor. Maybe sometime do a check inside those seats in the back room. I'm trying to hold out until someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there. You know. I don't know.
bare metal virtualization, run virtualized software and write on the machine. I wouldn't
quizzes
so I started learning the virtualization right on the machine. And then I run with the EPL. That's how I learned so I can access my phone.
Yeah,
But I can access my house. So I can access my house. I can view my cameras.
Seems silly, but that's kind of actually pretty small. It's not a huge amount of higher than that.
With different things there.
Other classes that works like anybody else that? We start off. Like really what you're doing class, or you have to engaging or not. I can't take. Based on the concept of what it used to be. It's kind of neat. Yeah. That's what it is. So that's this class. But I mean, like, I like this class. The cant is based on the PowerPoint. These PowerPoints come from the manufacturer,